In this video, I'm going to talk about composing still life using figures. And when I say figures, I'm not just meaning images of people, but also ones of animals. As humans, we're just sort of wired to always be looking for things with a face and that we would perceive to have a personality, even if those images are maybe a cartoon or just a doll, or it could even be just a photo of a human or an animal. But we're just hardwired and have a certain bias to those kind of images. And so understanding that and having an awareness of it can really be helpful during the composition process. In doing research for this video, I discovered that there's actually an entire museum of Cheetos that are in the shape of animals or people. And you can actually visit this museum. It's in New York. But I just wanted to point out that if people are finding animals in Cheetos, they're going to find those images in your paintings as well, whether you're planning for them to or not. So making sure that you do kind of plan for it, it seems like a good idea to me. So I brought up some images of paintings that I've done with animals or people, and probably the most successful way to use an animal or image of a person is just to put it right in the center of interest, because that's what people are going to be looking for anyway. So in this case, you not only have the strong image of the fish, but there's the compelling light value and the chroma of the blue, and then surrounded by the yellow. It just makes it an irresistible focal point. Now, if you're working with several images of people and animals, you still need to be thoughtful of that, in that you still want the viewer to go to one area of the painting. So making sure that one image in particular or one area of the picture plane is more compelling than another. In this case, the horse is a bigger image and it's lighter in value and there's more contrast around it. So your eye still wants to travel first to one particular area of the composition. In some of these other paintings, I've tried to make the figure or the animal not the first thing that the eye goes to. So when I'm working with something like that, I make sure that I have a very strong center of interest. So I've got dark, dark, light, light, some detail and strong color in one area. And then when I have an image of a figure or an animal somewhere in it, that image is usually much more subdued. So this is a pretty neutral and the values are relatively close back there. If that were a very dark background and a white heron on it, your eye would want to go to that area right away. But because the values are kept closer together, the eye tends to go to the areas of the composition that have more of a feeling of contrast and form. So going on to this next piece, we have a similar situation where there's a figure back in here. And even though if you held that print up to the cup, there might have been values just as light on that as there are on the cup, or the darks in her hair might have been as dark as some of these spots down in here. But because that's further back and because I wanted to keep the attention on this cup, I painted the figure back here as though you are looking at this area here. And so those values are somewhat subdued and your eye doesn't tend to go back there as quickly as it will to the areas of stronger value contrast. In this painting, I propped a tray up in the background, and you can see that tray there on the left. It has an illustration, a famous illustration by Steinlen on it. And I just felt like it gave me some interesting shapes to work with. The red dress is, of course, pretty attention-getting, but the head and the features themselves there isn't a lot of contrast up there, and I kind of muted some of what was there. So uh, by keeping the contrast more around the white teapot and having the strong form in that area, I felt like it helped to keep the figure from attracting much attention in this piece. And I like the way that it just formed a nice abstraction. I don't know that anybody would necessarily notice it was a figure unless I pointed that out to them. Obviously, this painting isn't a still life, but it's kind of an outdoor still life. And it's, I think, a great example of some of the principles we've been talking about. This is, I couldn't end this video without bringing up one of my all-time favorite paintings with hidden figures. This one is called The Hermit, and it's by John Singer Sargent. And when I first saw it, I know that my eye went straight to all of this contrast back in here, the unbroken light hitting that light tree trunk and the rock, and then the deep darks of the forest behind it. But after I first was drawn into that area, my eye eventually traveled down here to this area with all the dappled light, where I spotted this figure down in the corner, the hermit. And because of the lack of contrast down there and the neutral tones, you almost do a double take wondering if that's what you're really seeing. And then eventually I worked my way over to focus in on this pair of deer over here to the left. So I've always felt like it was so masterful the way he was able to pull that off, because it seems like that's the way it would really be if you were out in the forest walking along and you ran across these creatures. They would be aware of you way before you were aware of them, and you'd almost do a double take wondering if that's what you really were seeing. So but by analyzing what he's done here, there's a lot of lessons that we can use in our own work, and I feel like this is a great painting to study even for doing still life work with figures.
My name is Robb, and I've been a professional artist for over 40 years. I first began taking art classes in Tulsa, Oklahoma while still in high school, and later moved to New York City to study art. My work has been featured a number of times over the years in publications such as Art of the West, The Artist Magazine, and Southwest Art, to name a few. For nearly 40 years, I have continuously been exhibiting my paintings in galleries, museums, and national shows. My teaching career spans several decades, and in this online course, I will show you the methods that experience has taught me work well to get information across to students. When conducting a workshop, I have two main goals. One is to help the students sharpen their ability to observe from an artist's point of view, something we are all continuously trying to improve on. These seeing skills are essential to every aspect of painting, from the relationships of values, color, shapes, and edges, to composition and creating a center of interest. My other goal is to show the students the ways I push the boundaries of what my materials are capable of in order to create a convincing feeling of light, form, and depth in my paintings. The demonstrations will be still life studies in oil, but most of the theories and lessons will apply to any medium or subject matter. Hope to see you in my course.